So let's be welcome everyone. It's good to see those of you that have cameras on your computers. I'm glad that you're here. We're going to get started right now with a spiritual mind treatment. So please join me in the knowing of truth. And I begin just with a breath to clear my lungs and clear my mind, knowing that all is in perfect order and the divine is present right here, right now, in the midst of this collection of beings, far and wide, talking across the internet and seeing one another. And I'm so grateful for each one that joins us for this class and the good work that we do. I know whatever happens tonight has value in the lives of each participant, and that we do our work and do it well and clear. And in my knowing that this is so, I simply let it be, grateful for each one that is here and for the opportunity to share these truths. And knowing that it is so, with gratitude and love, I simply let it be so. And so it is. Okay, so again, it's really good to see everybody. And now I'm going to remember how to lock this meeting, which I did just a little while ago, figured out just a little while ago. It's under more, that's what it is. And the meeting is locked. We're not going to welcome anybody else into this call now. It's just us. And everyone is muted. And what we just learned from Ophia is that when it's time for you to speak, all you have to do is hold down the space bar on your keypad, and you should be able to participate and say what you need to say. In the meantime, I have come with things to share. So I'm going to begin that process. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen so you won't see me for a while. We're going to be talking about two different spiritual practices tonight. I'll run through my material on the first one, and then I'll take the screen share off, and everyone can have an opportunity to discuss whatever you want to say about this. So let's see about doing a screen share. Okay, does everyone see? Well, I can't see you right this second, so I'm assuming that everyone can see the screen. If you can't, hold down your taskbar or your space bar and let me. Otherwise, I'll assume everybody can see that. Great. All right, so where we're going to start tonight is with gratitude as a spiritual practice. As you know, Module 2 is all about spiritual practice. We talked about spiritual principles in the first module of this class. This is our third class, and we are going to look at gratitude and meditation tonight from the perspective of spiritual practice. So the first thing I want to tell you about is that gratitude, being the very simple act of feeling and expressing appreciation, regardless of what it's for, it could be people, circumstances, or possessions in our lives, whatever we're doing, it comes as a natural act to be grateful. And it creates quite a few things that happen in our body when we're experiencing gratitude. It evokes feelings of abundance rather than feelings of being deprived or being denied. Gratitude is always a process where we are grateful for something that we have. I talked about that last week when we were talking about spiritual mind treatment. But it's true that everything that we're grateful for, we have in our lives. Whether we can see it and touch it and taste it and smell it or not, if we're grateful for it, we're claiming that it's true and absolutely present in our lives. Gratitude assists us in becoming more motivated and more productive. We actually feel less fatigued and less pressured when we focus on gratitude. The thing that's so wonderful about gratitude is you can't be genuinely grateful for something and pissed off at the same time. You can't be angry or fearful or have any of those heavy emotions when you're feeling gratitude. It's this thing where it shuts everything else down that would be the opposite of it. It's almost like it's an antidote to any of those things to move into gratitude. So that's the power of gratitude. But there's also scientific evidence that gratitude is absolutely provable. And there's been some great studies done on gratitude. And I have a couple of quotes for you, not quotes, but I want to talk about what's in a couple of different documents. The first one is a book called The Upward Spiral, Using Neuroscience to Reverse the Course of Depression. And in that book, written by neuroscientist Dr. Alex Korb, it says that gratitude boosts our neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, and the hormone oxytocin, which is all of these are associated with physical and emotional well-being. And that when we are being grateful, we're releasing those neurotransmitters and hormones into our system, and it's giving us truly a sense of well-being. Some might say it moves us into a blissful state. And of course, all of us have experienced gratitude, so we know what it feels like. We know what it does to our bodies, because it just calms us down and allows us to be in this joyous state. So there's been a lot of research done about it. Another example of some of the work that's been done is from Deepak Chopra, who wrote an article called Sowing Seeds of Gratitude to Cultivate Well-Being. And in that article, he references clinical studies that prove that positive effects of gratitude has a direct impact on the recovery of patients with symptomatic heart failure. So that people that are struggling with heart disease have actually shown drastic improvements when they were focused on their gratitude and doing it truly as a practice. What we normally experience in our culture is that something wonderful happens and we go, oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you, that's so wonderful. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about a spiritual practice where people are actually using gratitude as a tool. And the science behind this continues to prove that there's something there, even though religions and spiritual leaders have been saying for thousands of years that that gratitude has great value and it's in our best interest to be grateful. Deepak Chopra, going back to what he wrote, draws a powerful equivalency between our physical and our mental well-being. He's saying that gratitude really is creating a higher level of spirituality in the people's lives who use it and use it consciously. I've actually got some slides to share to talk about the word origins of the term gratitude. Gratitude comes from the Latin root gratus, which means pleasing, welcome, and agreeable. It's the same root word that applies to the words grace, gratuity, and gratis. So it's an outpouring experience. It's something that we experience gratitude, but we also express it. And because it is fully orbed in that flow, it becomes even more powerful for us. And there's another source for gratitude, and that comes from the Sanskrit. Their root word in Sanskrit for gratitude is gwere, meaning to praise, to celebrate, and to be in contact with the divine. And at that level, it becomes really a spiritual act to be grateful. So, and what this is saying is that to be in a state of gratitude is to be connected to the divine, which of course we know is happening all the time. Even when we're in a foul mood, we're connected to the divine. We are immersed in the divine. But what this is saying is that the qualities of the divine are revealed through us when we're in a state of gratitude. And some people say that gratitude calls us into a state of bliss. And however you design it, the idea of gratitude has value in our lives, and it impacts everything that we are experiencing when we wrap it in gratitude, when we know that we are grateful and that we express that and feel that and use it in those as a spiritual context. Some say that gratitude is actually an antidote for suffering. So that when we are in a state of gratitude, because that diminishes and sets aside anything else, if we are in a suffering state and can suddenly find things to be grateful for, we're going to have a totally different experience. I think that is the foundation for ideas like bringing puppies or dogs into convalescent environments, where people and elders who are in wheelchairs or who don't have a high level of being ambulatory can, interact with a dog whose tail is wagging and who's all excited to be there, and that takes away the suffering. It takes away the idea that things aren't okay, and focuses on something that feels good. So in a lot of cases, medicine now uses ways to call people into gratitude to help them with their convalescing from whatever condition that they have. We're talking about doing it ourselves and using it as a spiritual practice that allows us the ability to maintain that higher level of consciousness all the time, a higher level of affect, a lighter affect, so that we're using that to really create our lives. So that, as we know in the science of mind, when we think about something, we're actually creating it. So if our attention is on the people and the conditions and the things that bring us joy and gratitude in our lives, we're going to have a better life, and we're going to create more of that coming into our lives on a regular basis. One of the cool things about gratitude that is different from most spiritual practice is that there's not really a whole lot to be trained about. We know how to be grateful. The only task before us is to do it. But there's no requirement for any kind of studying, and it doesn't take years to master gratitude. We all have moments of gratitude. The thing that makes it a spiritual practice is that we do it on a continuing and ongoing basis. And because it is so easily understood and applied, some say that it is the ultimate spiritual practice. And I have absolutely no argument with that. So what I want to talk about next is this idea of how we can turn it into a practice rather than something that is a response when we experience something wonderful. And I'm going to talk about 3 gratitude practices that you may want to consider if this is something that you'd like to bring more fully into your life. The first one is keeping a gratitude journal. I have done this, and when I was actively doing that, I found that it was a great way to start my day, and that along with my spiritual mind treatment and meditation, that I would just sit and write. And I would write things that I was grateful for. And it's amazing, once you start looking at things that you're grateful for in your lives, it goes from the big things, the major relationships, the major events, the changes that may truly make a big difference in our lives, down to the little things. I was having a conversation with our media director, Devon Embler, today, and she was talking about how much she's noticing the little things to be grateful for. She used to walk into the center on a weekly basis, maybe 6 or 8 times she would actually come in the front door. Now she's coming in once to do the Sunday celebration, which we're recording on Friday mornings. And she's saying that when she comes in, simply the act of walking up the stairs and into the building, she has such gratitude for that we're here, where when she was doing it all the time, probably didn't even cross her mind. So that's an example of the kind of things that when you really dig down into what you're grateful for, you start finding these little moments of things that happen, things you do that you can be grateful for, that normally in a regular situation wouldn't have that much value. But under the circumstances we're in now, the idea of keeping track of things you're grateful for can be a real lift in the middle of an otherwise tense, stress-filled day. So you might want to consider getting, and all it takes is a pad of paper or even some blank sheets. It doesn't matter whether they're lined or they're blank. All you have to do is start writing down things you're grateful for. And usually the way I did it was I wrote, I am grateful for dot, dot, dot. And then I just start writing and things come. And the more you do it, the more things come. And the more that you have things come that you can be grateful for, the more filled your life will be with that blissful state of being grateful. So that's number one, keeping a gratitude journal. The second one is writing thank you notes and letters. And what I'm finding is that the U.S. Postal Service is coming in real handy these days because they're still delivering the mail. So I have sent some notes out to people, and you don't get any kind of immediate gratification for doing that. But in most cases, these days anyway, you might get a note back or a call or an email or a text, but just taking the time to write down something you're grateful for is a lovely it's a lovely idea, but it has that therapeutic value that we get from gratitude. People, there's a tactile experience when you get a note in the mail or a letter in the mail. And this is something that I practiced, that I learned from one of the previous leaders of our spiritual movement, Christian Sorensen, who's the minister of a church in Encinitas, California. And he was the president of United Church of Religious Science. Boy, that's reaching back at one time. And it was his regular habit to write thank you notes. And he would send them out. And I'm sure there was not a month that I was in this movement when he was president that I didn't get a note from him. This was something major that he made work in his life. And frankly, most of the time that I've been around Christian, he's been in a joyous, blissful state. So apparently it was working for him that he would send these notes out through the mail. And so I encourage you, if you know, it's so easy to send an email, but it's something a little more special to actually, in your handwriting, to write somebody a note, to put an address on an envelope, put a 50-some cent stamp on it, and send it off in the mail. And knowing that one of these days they're either going to go to their mailbox, or that someone that works where they work is going to drop into their internal box or on their desk a note from you that's thanking them for something that you did, which gives them great joy. And it gave you great joy to write it. So the idea of doing that, I think, is something to consider as a spiritual practice. And then the last one's a little different. It's this idea of taking a gratitude walk. And I know that's not always easy right now, but I will tell you that if you live in the Asheville area, that our parking lot is available for gratitude walks, that we occasionally have somebody come by, but there's absolutely no crowds around here, and just walking around by the creek and anywhere else on this 6-acre campus to just clear your head and think about what you're grateful for can be a very wonderful experience. I've done plenty of gratitude walks out there, and I encourage you to do it there or somewhere if that's what calls to you, if you would rather not do the writing. But those are the three ideas that I've got for you around doing gratitude as a spiritual practice. And there's lots of other ideas. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back to you and ask if there's anyone that would like to join us here with a conversation about gratitude. Who wants to say something about their practice of gratitude?
Hey, John, this is April.
Hi, April.
So I, about 6 months before I found the center, I was watching Oprah Winfrey Super Soul Sunday and decided to implement a gratitude practice. And on my drive to work, which is about 45 minutes each direction, I would say my gratitudes out loud. It became my favorite part of my day. I mean, just out loud. And sometimes it was just the sunrise, or that flower blooming over there, or it was just fantastic. So, and each evening these days I post on Facebook what I'm grateful for in my day. Thank you.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Barbara, of course, did that 100 Days of Gratitude, which she posted on Facebook. and everybody read. And I don't know how many people know this, but Amanda Litz, who is often in this class and of course is a wonderful member of our community, actually had a book published with all those statements that Barbara had made on Facebook. And I just picked it up the other day and was reminded that every day she would have a different gratitude, but she always ended it with, "I'm grateful for John." And it didn't matter which page I went to, she was grateful for John, which still touches my heart every time I think about it. It's sitting on the coffee table in her office. And if you're, once we open back up, if you happen to be upstairs and walk into her office, go over and pick it up and just flip through a page, and it'll touch your heart. It's quite amazing. So thank you, April.
Where can you buy that?
What's that?
Where can you buy it?
I don't know that it was actually anything more than one copy. But it is lovely. It is lovely. And April, what you described, I think, would be like number 3, take a gratitude walk. Oh, you were just taking a gratitude drive. I think it works either way. Good for you. Who else has a thought?
I have a journal that I do it before I go to sleep. And it starts with "I'm thankful for," and then there's 3 spaces. Sometimes I fill up the 3 spaces, sometimes I don't, but it's less intimidating to me to just have those 3 spaces than to have a blank page and think, oh my gosh, I have to fill this whole page. So I do that every night before I go to bed.
And how does it impact you?
Well, it helps me helps me realize how lucky I am.
Yeah.
In considering my life over the whole of it, I'm lucky that I'm here and that I'm sane and that I can recognize that I'm grateful.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And obviously, as I was describing the chemical reactions that we have when we move into gratitude, you were doing that just as you were going to sleep. That must have helped.
Yeah,
Very
it
nice.
does.
Very nice.
It does.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other thoughts here?
Hey.
Yes, Sophia.
You brought up the letter, and well, first of all, I do on Facebook. I think I've maybe had, you could maybe count on one hand how many posts I've had in the however knows how long recently that doesn't have 100 days of gratitude as the hashtag.
Right.
Well, until recently, because Vivian, I saw Vivian use hashtag all days of gratitude, and I know I've passed the 100 mark at some point, so been using that. And also the letter thing, where I found, while I was cleaning out my mom's office at the family farm, I found an essay that I had written from middle school that she had saved, that was talking about what a rough time I had had in elementary school from the classmates picking on me, but ended with talking about how I'd rather have the true friendship of my 6th grade teacher than the companionship of all my classmates. And I had gotten an A+ on it, and the teacher had said, "You need to send this to Mr. Mack." And so that was so many years ago. That was like over 20 years ago. And he was, kind of older, I thought, to begin with. But I took a chance, and I called the school that I went to and got in touch with someone who was working there when I went, and left a voicemail and figured it would be a while before I heard back. But 30 minutes later, she called back and said that it was so touching that I had called on that day because it was his 80th birthday, and that he would be celebrating at dinner tonight and stuff. And so I got his mailing address and made a copy of the essay, made a copy of and so it is lyrics, as a more recent example of my writing, and then like a short paragraph cover letter with it, and on Thursday I got a letter back from him, and it was really sweet. He said he remembered, our coffee breaks together and stuff. I wasn't allowed to have coffee, but yeah. So, But yeah, so it's been really, really cool to get that. I'm really grateful for that connection. So
That's lovely.
yeah,
Great story.
thanks.
Are you going to continue corresponding with him?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
lovely.
I even found him on Facebook, and he looks exactly the same. He looks just the same.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you, Ophia.
Thanks.
Who else?
How about me, John?
Hey, Jack.
I do things a little bit differently than most for the so-called gratitude journal and so forth. I keep a list of things I'm grateful for, and I simply review the list every morning. And I add to it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. But it just totally changes my outlook and the way I'm feeling to go through all the lists of all the things I'm grateful for that have been adding up over the years. And I can run through it fairly quickly. I have a total of 13 pages now.
And you read those 13 pages every morning?
Most every morning, yes.
Wow. Okay. That's great. That's a spiritual practice.
Yes.
Good
Yes.
for you. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to share?
I would, I'm having a problem. I don't know how to use this.
Well, you're on. I hear you. You're doing fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got lots of echo and stuff.
Well, I don't hear any echo right now.
Well, how about now?
No, it's fine.
I can't hear you though.
Really?
Oh, now I
Okay.
can.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know what the situation is, but the problem was, I guess, with my hearing aids. So
Well,
I
you're
can
doing
now
fine right now. You're coming
hear
through
you,
loud
but
and clear.
not real well. I can't get my volume up that high. I think there's a lot more to gratitude than is just the mental attitude and acceptance of that which we have. It's really more about how things are. And I think Wallace Wattles talks some of the best about gratitude. He points out that without gratitude, the mind soon turns to dissatisfaction. And then the common, the ordinary, loss, lack, and limitation. And the opinions and beliefs of others and the world's opinion and the laws of average start entering into becoming part of our life. And that gratitude is one of the best ways to, I guess, deal with all of those situations. There's a lot more, but I have a hard time articulating it. One of the things that I find really interesting is I actually looked to see what Ernest Holmes had to say about gratitude and the science of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And gratitude is not listed in the glossary or the index. And it's only listed twice in the concordance. And Thanksgiving and thanks is listed only a few times also. But I really looked at those, and it led me to think a lot differently about what he's saying. And I came across something that was not in the concordance with respect to thanks. And that was a reference to Jesus and his practice and ministry. And Holmes pointed out that he always started with thanks. And says that I know that you hear me. And then he stated that that was, gratitude was recognition, and that gratitude has a tendency to bring us into harmony and balance and order and agreement with life, and it actually unifies us with life. And he actually said that gratitude was the first two steps in treatment, recognition and unification, and went on into the concept of praying ceaselessly in terms of having gratitude for all things, and in all things, everything you think and say and do and experience. And sort of reviewing that and looking at it has really helped me to incorporate and to learn how to incorporate gratitude into what I'm experiencing. And I could tell you some really good experiences of doing that. But I think gratitude is probably my single most spiritual practice.
You want to share one of those experiences that you were just referring to?
Oh, sure. I'd love to. There's one fairly recent. It has to do with the sale of my my dental practice when I was retiring. I had been working with a broker, and the practice was sold at the full asking price, and the broker actually violated a non-disclosure agreement, and that fell through. And I ended up having to sell the practice in terms of selling just the records, which left me with the equipment and all of the contents of the office and everything else. And financially, it was a much less of a deal, and I was not real happy at that particular point. But, you know, very quickly, one of my employees said, well, you know, let me try putting this online. It was an item, and she put it online and sold it rather quickly. And I then realized that, gee, you know, I can do this. And my attitude changed. And as I started to work with, Amanda was the person's name, we went through and started pulling things out and selling all kinds of equipment. And I hate to tell you how many boxes of masks I, in essence, essentially gave away, but nonetheless. And then in about the middle of this process, as you know, some things that had been in a cupboard for probably 30 years, literally, that were from dental school, I came across. And I started to realize that as I was pulling all this stuff out of the cabinets and the drawers and so forth, I was reviewing my entire life as a dentist.
Yeah.
And it brought back all kinds of memories, and there were even issues associated with various things that had never really ever been resolved, and I was able to put them into a perspective that was probably just as good as if I had resolved them. And actually, by the time I was done, I ended up doing better financially, having sold all of this equipment in that, and supplies and everything in that manner. And as the very last day, I had to leave the place, what they call broom clean. So I was in the basement sweeping the last bits of stuff up. And there's, at least for me, there's like a rhythm and a pattern to sweeping. And I realized that, gee, you know, this is what I did when I was working summers, going to dental school to earn money. And that I had actually come full circle, and that there was a more than just gratitude. There was a really profound realization, because my sweeping technique was still pretty much the same. At any rate, that's one of the ways in which I have used gratitude. I also use it a lot when I pick up and use things that I really appreciate. I've got like special shovels that I use in my garden, and like every time I pick it up to do the specific task, I really am grateful for it. And you can apply that in all other sorts of ways with tangible and intangible things, and it's a wonderful practice.
That's brilliant. Thank you, David. And what came to me as you were talking is that there's a lot of things in our lives that we are grateful for, and if we'll think about them, we'll be grateful for them. The mastery of this is more in finding something to be grateful for in a condition or circumstance that you actually don't want and you don't like. But yet there's going to be something in the midst of that that's going to have some value. And if you can create some gratitude in your heart, in your life, around that thing that you're kind of exploring and finding, it can change the whole dynamic of that. So good for you. That's lovely. Great story. I appreciate it.
It was great.
Who else has a thought they'd like to share? Anyone? I'm told all you have to do is hold down your bar there and you can speak. Elizabeth, Gwen, you want to say? There you are.
I want to say, John, that
Yes, ma'am.
the thing that I am most grateful for is in all the 20 years that I would read the Science of Mind book all by myself, I now have people to share it with. And I'm so grateful to be up here and with the center.
That's lovely. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
We're grateful for you putting us on Zoom so that we can have class even though we're quarantined.
There it is. There it is. We'll always find a way. And Ophia, you're still here, even though your roommate's got something else going on Zoom. You're doing great. Anyone else want to talk about gratitude?
Okay, I might as well go.
Hi, Deidre.
Hi. I'm always grateful, but I don't always express it or take the time to actually set aside to express it. So last month, or before all of this craziness started, I was blessed to lead the sing-along with a song called I Claim a Blessing. And that song really blessed me because the words are like let me see, in the morning when I get out of bed, I claim a blessing. And before I even lift my head, I claim a blessing. And to me, what she's saying is I'm giving gratitude for something that I don't know what, and the song touched me because it said to me, okay, before you even think of anything else, when you wake up, give some gratitude. Be grateful. Nice. So in my heart, I'm just feeling so much better. I have a better day every day, and just so grateful, more grateful every day. Thank you, thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you. You're absolutely right. And starting your day with gratitude is really a smart thing to do. What is that phrase? If you wake up and go, oh God, it's morning, or you can wake up and go, oh God, it's morning. That's great. It just depends on how you want to play the game. And it's true that however you start your day pretty much follows you the rest of the day. And so that's.
Just want to add one more thing.
Yes.
There is a phrase that you have an attitude of gratitude.
Yes.
You want to comment on that?
Absolutely. That's
okay.
Wonderful. Good deal. Any other thoughts? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to meditation, and I'm gonna start my my screen again as soon as I remember how to do it. There it is. move to the idea of, I think meditation is what's next. Let's see. Yeah, meditation is spiritual practice. So now we'll take a little time talking about this idea of meditation. Meditation being very different from gratitude, because gratitude can come very naturally, even though you can develop it as a spiritual practice. Everybody knows how to be grateful. Not everybody wants to be grateful, but everybody knows how to do that. It comes pretty natural. Meditation, on the other hand, to some degree, seems unnatural. To shut up and just sit there. But there's way more going on than meets the eye. And it is truly something that requires some spiritual maturity to be willing to do meditation. In fact, I'm going to tell you that not to call it doing it, that it's really not a doing process. It's more of an allowing process. And something that fits very nicely in there is the idea that spiritual maturity comes not from learning something new, but from releasing things that you no longer need. Ideas and attitudes and ways of doing things that no longer serve actually is the process of meditation. It's a letting go process. It's an allowing process. And it does certain things to you physiologically that are very clear. Meditation slows the mind, which is the point, because we can all think very quickly, but most of the thoughts we quickly think are not helpful. And they come and go so quickly that we hardly even notice them much of the day. We can have judgment of something and have a split second of annoyance and just move on. But don't think that moment of annoyance doesn't impact our psyche. It does. It's where we are and how we think that impacts how our day continues to go. And I have found consistently in my life that if I'm focused on something that I'm not happy about, that the next thing that I experience, I'm not going to be happy about that. And the experience I have after that, I'm not going to be happy about it. It's almost like it has some kind of a building effect during the day. And I'm just calling all this stuff to me and making my life really hard. So meditation would be something that would turn that around. And I know that some people meditate at night. I have never found that helpful. I have always found meditating in the morning to be something that really works for me. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But meditation, as I said, is not a doing process. It's an allowing process. It allows us to release tension and anxiety and replace it with relaxation. And it also impacts the effect of monkey mind. I'm sure some of you have heard that phrase, monkey mind. It's that mind chatter that's going on in the background all the time, usually with an attitude, and just chattering away, thinking thoughts. And everybody gets reintroduced to monkey mind when they do begin a meditative process, because it just doesn't know how to shut up on its own. So the work of meditation is really about kind of harnessing that and shackling it so that it doesn't always have control of our mind, and we don't have that background noise on the inside that gets in our way and really does have an impact on our day. So I want to begin this process with some ideas on establishing an effective meditation practice. I would imagine that several of you on this call do meditation now, or involved in meditation on a regular basis, have it as a spiritual practice, but probably not all. So I'm going to approach this from the idea that nobody on the call meditates regularly, and see how we can introduce this idea of meditation to a fresh audience. So the first of these 9 ideas that I want to ask you to consider is to commit to 30 days of a daily practice of actually having a meditation time every day for 30 days. And why do I say that? Well, I think the magic number that most people tell us is 28 days. That if you do something consistently for 28 days, it becomes a habit. It becomes a regular thing that you expect to do. And if you can do meditation 30 days in a row, take time to do that, even for a short amount of time, there's a strong possibility that it may become something that's regular for you. If you don't commit to 30 days, but you say you're going to just do it every day, that would be a lie, because without some kind of parameters, it's really easy just to stop. It's really easy just to set it down and say, well, that didn't work. But if you're committed to do it for 30 days, something's going to happen that's going to open you up and help you see the value of doing meditation. The second point is that to maintain a meditative practice, you want to have a quiet place, and you want to do your meditation work around the same time of day. In other words, don't do it one day in the morning and the next day at night. If you're going to do it in the morning, do it in the morning, and find that quiet place where you can go and meditate. And we'll talk about what that means here in a minute, but that's the idea that by creating a ritual, by creating a routine of time and place, that becomes an anchor, so that when you sit down in whatever chair or whatever mat you do your meditation work from, that it signals, your body signals that it's time to do that. And you can move into that practice much easier. Whereas if you're moving it around and doing it when it tries to fit, and then you forget and you didn't do it one day, it gets chaotic and it loses its impact. So the idea of meditating at the same time and place on a regular basis as best you can is a great way to make sure that happens. And that's true of any spiritual practice. It's true of doing spiritual mind treatment, that we can stop and do treatment any time of day or night. But there's a spiritual practice of spiritual mind treatment where you don't wait for something to treat for, you treat your day, you treat your life. And the same is true for meditation. Even though it's a very different practice, it is a practice that is benefited by creating a routine. So that's the second one. The next one is about finding a comfortable posture. And if you're not accustomed to meditating, you've probably seen people cross-legged on the floor with hands, palms facing up, and thumb and forefinger touching. That is the traditional yogi posture for doing meditation, but it's not required. It's just the way the Indian masters decided that they wanted it done. But that doesn't mean it has to be done that way. I would suggest that our Western bodies don't automatically find comfort in sitting with legs crossed in the lotus position. And that for some people that might be incredibly uncomfortable, where sitting in a chair might work just fine. So this idea of a comfortable posture, it could be sitting in your favorite chair with your feet flat on the floor. Or you could be on a cushion with legs crossed, ankles perhaps touching the floor, or 1,000 different variations of that position. The idea is find a place of comfort. If you're going to sit on the floor, I'm told by people that do this regularly that putting some kind of padding, not heavy padding, but some kind of a small pillow right under your butt in the back tends to align your spine to where it's more erect. And that is an important part of this. In that place of comfort, you don't want to be slouching. You want to be sitting up as straight as you can with your head straight. And even though your eyes are going to be closed during this, that basically your pupils are facing straight out to the horizon. You're not looking up with your eyes closed, and you're not looking down with your eyes closed. That you're maintaining that horizon perspective, which also helps keep your body in alignment and in a position that will work. That's about what I want to say about that. Let's see. Make your practice easy. What does this mean? That this doesn't have to be any harder than it already is. I will talk openly about what's hard. What's hard is getting into the chair to do it. Once you're in the chair and you're going to do it, you've passed that. But there are so many kinds of meditation, and I'm not going into the different techniques of meditation. There are so many, we would spend weeks discussing all of those and explaining them. The basic idea of meditation is to slow everything down, to bring things to a very clear and simple focus, perhaps your breath. And if all you do is focus on your breath for the time that you're in meditation, then that's fine. That's wonderful. The idea again is to quiet your mind and to learn how to release thoughts as quickly as they come. I've never heard of anyone who could sit in silence with their eyes closed, being perfectly awake, who didn't have some level of mind chatter, at least at the beginning. The idea of moving past that mind chatter is simply not to go to war with it, not to battle it, not to make it wrong, not to get exasperated, but to just breathe through it and let it go. Because in that moment, it no longer serves. And then when another thought comes, just let it go. Don't engage. Don't get involved in it. Don't take that thought and carry it to another thought. Simply let it go. It's not the time to think. It's the time to be in that state of peace, of bliss, of relaxation, and of listening. But not listening for words. Listening to the sound of your heartbeat or to your breath as it moves in and out. I have heard the masters say that the infinite presence of the divine dwells in that space between the inhale and the exhale. And you can imagine as you're breathing and that as you're in that restful, relaxed state, that your breathing is not laborious at all. It's very gentle and you're very aware of it. You're very conscious of breathing in and breathing out. And that doing that work does amazing things to your body. We'll talk about that in a little while. So the idea is make it easy. I have heard that meditation is 99% the person and 1% the technique. So don't be concerned about technique. All you want to do is relax and invite your mind to settle down for all the benefits that come from that. And we'll talk about the benefits here in a few minutes. The length of a meditation session is certainly part of making it work for you. To my liking, 10 minutes to an hour is perfect. It's anything in there between 10 minutes and 60 minutes is great. I would think that anyone that wanted to do this would work up to that. The best way I know to do it is to set a timer and let a timer very gently tell you when you've done the amount of meditation that you intended to do. When you're in the meditation, time becomes irrelevant. And it may seem, even if you're meditating for 30 minutes, it may seem coming out like that couldn't possibly have been more than 10 minutes. But it's irrelevant. It's the idea of allowing the mind not to keep time, not to keep count, not to be actively doing anything, but resting. And it can be a very, very powerful process. But this idea of 10, 15 minutes is plenty. If you think you need to meditate longer than an hour, I recommend you move to India and allow people to call you yogi. For my liking, anything under 30 minutes works just great for me. And I seldom do meditation as a single practice. My intention is to do meditation and then to move into treatment. And I find that when I meditate before I treat, that my mind is clearer and more focused, and I'm allowed to bring forth ideas more clearly in that process. It's a refreshing of my mind to do that work. And I find it exhilarating in the idea that it kind of opens me up when I do this, especially when I'm getting ready to treat. Here's an idea. Enjoy it. Enjoy this quiet time. Don't get caught up in any extraneous noises. They're going to be there anyway. Don't comment in your mind on them. Don't think about them. Don't be bothered by them. Simply let them do what they do. You stay in your state. You find that point of relaxation and allow meditation to be an adventure of your inner workings. Meditation absolutely happens on the inside. It is not an expression. It is an experience. And what we do is we allow our bodies and our minds to relax enough that we receive the benefit of it. If you can keep it light while you're doing this and not see it as drudgery or work or challenge or anything that is anything but wonderful, then you're doing it right. The seventh idea I have for you, that meditation offers no destination. Some people I've heard say that meditation is not working for them. Well, meditation can't not work. Meditation always works. It is what it is. And the idea there is don't put any judgment on what happened. Don't count up how many times you had thoughts or how many things you had to let go of or how your butt got sore because you were sitting there for a while or anything else that's going on. All of that is distraction. The idea of meditation is to simply be. And it's not an ego-based natural thing to simply be. Our ego wants us to do something, and there's nothing to do in meditation. And that's the point. That's the idea that you want to fall into, is that it's just there. And what I've discovered is something I discovered when I was a runner, and I've never really been a runner, but I did have a practice of running. I think I got up to 3 or 4 miles in a park in Florida when I still lived down there. And I had heard about this thing called a runner's high, where the endorphins show up and you just start, instead of being in that pace of huffing and puffing and moving my body to make the run work, I suddenly move into this gliding thing. And it's not that my body did anything different, but my sense of it all just got easy. It just started flowing. And what I found in meditation, that once you get used to it, once you are in the practice and your body is being cooperative and your mind is settling down, that you almost move into that runner's high, to where you can continue to do it effortlessly. And it's not wrong if you do it any other way, but there's some value about letting it just be effortless. By not having any goals to meet or standards to meet or outcomes to attain through your meditation, simply let it be. And by doing that, you may actually get more of an experience than you imagined. Number 8 is be selfish about your meditation time. Nobody meditates for anyone but themselves. It's a personal activity. Now, some people go and meditate with other people. Everybody gets in a room, and I'll tell you that it's a different energy when you're in a room full of people that are meditating. You can feel the difference. You can, I think one thing that happens is these energy fields around our bodies expand and start intermixing with the people around us. And if everybody's intention is clear, it's actually a lovely experience to experience other people's energy while you're doing this very simple yet very powerful exercise, this practice of meditation. So doing it with other people is great, but the idea that you're going to do it because it's for you has value as well, because it does create a sense of well-being, it does create happiness, and it does create a state of inner peace. So doing this work for any length of time will demonstrate that there is actually psychological, physiological value to doing this. And then the final one here is accepting you're good from it, because the experts claim that meditation allows us to achieve self-realization and enlightenment. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. Perhaps there are some other benefits to meditation that might be worthwhile, that might have value in your life. And what I want to do is I want us to look at some of them, because there have been massive numbers of studies of groups of many thousands of people to see what are the benefits when people meditate. And some have been with short-term meditation programs, and some have been with longer-term meditation programs. But either way, they're showing that from the studies that have been done, the medical studies have been done, that there really are quite a number of things that impact our bodies and our minds in effective and meaningful ways. And I want to go through those with us now. But I tell you what, before I do that, because we're just past the top of the hour, why don't we take a quick break here? And it's my clock says it's 8:04. We'll call it 8:05, and we'll come back and start this up again at 8:15. So take your break, and we'll start up again, like I say, in about 10 minutes. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Sophia, you've got your hand raised. Did you want to say something? All righty. So I'm going to put back up the screen share. And move into this idea of the benefits of meditation. Let's get here we go. What a surprise, it reduces stress. It actually has been proved to lower the levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, in our bodies. So that one wasn't really difficult to figure out. And I would suppose that any time that you could calm your mind and relax your body, that stress would be diminished. But there's actually been the medical work done to prove it. People who meditate have a great ability to control their anxiety levels. It doesn't mean that someone who meditates is never anxious, but in circumstances which would be high stress or high anxiety, like high pressure work environments, in like being at family gatherings and things of that sort, which could be anxiety driven, can actually, for people who meditate, they find they can move through these experiences much easier. Here's an interesting one. You can actually reduce inflammation in your body by meditating. Research has shown that lower inflammation producing chemicals, which are called serotonins, is something that is been demonstrated again and again, that people that meditate do not have the high levels of those inflammatory chemicals in their bodies. People who suffer from depression, who learn to meditate, there have been definite increases in measurable brain activity in areas relating to optimism and productive thinking. So people who have otherwise experienced depression in their lives can circumvent quite a bit of that by meditating on a regular basis. Improved anger management. Anger management usually has a joke attached to it somehow, but it's true that it's our job to manage our state, and one state that nobody really appreciates is anger. So, and it's not just the management of anger, but really managing your emotional state all the way around is something that is improved when people meditate. Here's an interesting one. People report less chronic pain when they are regularly involved in meditation. What they believe this is that the ability to mitigate pain sensations comes with the idea of taking control of one's mind, of one's sensory experiences, and by slowing everything down, it actually creates a calmness in the body that doesn't exacerbate situations that are already painful and can actually reverse them. I found that to be one of the more interesting ones of this list. Increased self-awareness, absolutely. Meditation is an inside job. It's working internally. It is not about being at all involved in the exterior environment. It's about what's going on inside. And the clearer one is about who they are, the more self-aware they are. So that one kind of is a no-brainer, but important to say. People who meditate have a longer attention span. We find out from our marketing experts that the attention span of people is getting to be less and less. It's just a matter of seconds now to get someone's attention and try to hold on to it for any length of time. But apparently it's true that people who do meditation on a regular basis are able to reverse those patterns in the brain that contribute to mind wandering, to worrying, and to having a poor attention span. And speaking of memory, apparently age-related memory is an issue. What was I talking about? I'm sorry, that's not true. So the idea of improving that is something that apparently comes with a regular practice of meditation. And an increase of mental acuity. So all the way around, people are more centered in their mindfulness when they meditate. In fact, people call meditation a mindfulness practice, and it is. The idea that we would be able to have a better recall, that we would be able to have a better relationship with our own thinking is something that meditation actually assists with. This one kind of surprised me, that there are clear indications that meditation increases our sense of kindness and forgiveness. I have known people that meditate that I didn't think were all that kind, but I'm sure on the whole there's some value here because it was in this research that I researched. I like this one, the idea that people who are experiencing addiction can actually use meditation as a practice to reduce their cravings for whatever chemical, substance, food, whatever it is that seems to have some grip on their lives. That by meditating, that we're actually taking more control of our thinking and of our experiencing life, and we're actually in a state where we understand that we are in control of our experience beginning to end, which is obviously of great value to people who are addicts. I like this one. It improves our ability to sleep when we meditate. I have heard figures, I didn't actually research this today, but I have heard that a half hour of meditation can be worth 4 hours of sleep. I'm not giving up my sleep to meditate, but it is interesting that I could be more refreshed, more relaxed, more revitalized through the process of meditating, and that would go into my sleep time and support me in getting the rest that my body needs. And then when I'm awake, I have higher energy levels. This has been recorded and studied to say that people that meditate have more energy to use during the day. They have less times where they feel fatigued or depleted, and that meditation actually creates those higher levels of energy in the body during the day. Here's one that surprised me, that people who suffer from arrhythmia, an unregular or irregular heartbeat, that can actually be improved through meditation. I pretty much can see how that would be, but it never occurred to me until I found this in my research, that the rhythm of your heart, which is one of the things you can focus on in meditation, can actually improve and become more reliable through the practice of meditation. Meditation can have an effect on your blood pressure and actually lower it. Sounds like a good idea. Obviously, the other name for high blood pressure is hypertension, and if the tension in your body is being resolved through meditation, it's going to bring your blood pressure down. Here was a surprising one. Apparently, meditation has been proven to diminish irritable bowel syndrome. I know somebody's laughing as I'm saying that, but people who have irritable bowel syndrome probably don't find that very funny. And the idea that it could actually settle down your digestive system, I think, could have great merit. And apparently it does. And the last one on my list is that it actually can help you lose weight, help you maintain the body weight that you want. I'm not sure how it does that, but this was one of the claims that I found that is a benefit of doing meditation. So those are the benefits that I was able to find. I'm sure there are many more, but those are the ones that are most highly recognized. And with that, I've got some conclusions for you. I want to say that meditation is something that everyone can do to improve their mental and emotional health. Anyone can do it wherever they choose. Obviously, it works best in a quiet place, but you can do it at any time in any way, simply by closing your eyes and settling down your mind. I can remember meditating on a train once, and it worked. And yes, there was all the clatter of the train tracks and the movement of the train, but I just let that be part of my experience. And it allowed me to have a very restful and enjoyable meditative experience on that train that day. That was somewhere in Ukraine. Meditation does not require any special equipment. You don't have to join any clubs or groups, although there are plenty of meditation courses and meditation groups that meet, and being a part of that is certainly a wonderful thing to do. Meditation can help improve anyone's quality of life. Even doing it 10 minutes a day can make a major difference. And with that, I'm going to discontinue this sharing and get to see all of your beautiful faces again, and ask you what else you might want to share about. Raise your hand or do your little electronic hand raising if you want, if you meditate on a regular basis. I want to find the folks that do that. April, Ophia, Deidre, very good. That's what I'm seeing right now. Okay, great. So those of you that meditate on a regular basis, might you have some thoughts you'd like to share? I know, Ophia, you already shared something on the chat. You might want to tell us about that.
Yeah, one of the, sorry, I'm in the same room as my roommate, also has a Zoom class going on.
Only you know that. The rest of us are doing fine.
They heard me and they're laughing. I can hear them. His classmates. Hold on, I need to walk over here. He's explaining the same. He's explaining the same thing to his roommate, to his classmates right now.
Okay.
Okay. That I have a hard time when I do have racing thoughts. You know, I have, especially if I'm working on a project or trying to figure something out. If I'm meditating, if the answer comes to me, it's really, really hard to let it go. So I will keep a notepad or like a piece of paper or something next to me, so that if it pops up, I write down like at the fewest amount of words possible to just remember what it was, and then put the pencil back down and go right back to meditating. And it helps me. Like I'm able to let it go and even find something deeper that comes up. So
That's great.
Thanks.
That's great. You're gonna like the process we do on visioning, because that's
Nice.
where you're basically in a meditative state, and then ideas come and you write them down. So
Yeah.
that's great. Good for you.
Thanks.
Deidre, did you have a thought?
Well,
Deidre?
actually, I'm here. Can you
Yes.
see me?
Yes, I hear you
Okay.
good.
Actually, I've never meditated. I've tried a few times, and
Ah,
I'm learning more about it,
okay.
And I read a book on mindfulness. It seems to be the same thing, mindfulness and consciousness, right?
Right.
But I do have a question. How often does meditation lead to sleepiness?
What a good question.
Because to me, it seems like I kind of go into that state before I go to sleep when I'm trying to calm my mind.
Yeah, that's never
So
been an issue for me.
A lot of people.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to hear, if anybody else has experience of wanting to go to sleep after meditating. With that, I'm done.
I can, I don't know that I've ever had that issue in a meditative situation. I do remember falling asleep once when I was holding high watch for a meeting. But meditating, somehow there's still this level of conscious awareness that goes on in meditation. It's like I still know who I am. I still know what I'm doing without actually thinking about it. So I haven't had that issue of falling asleep in meditation. And I would not recommend trying to meditate lying down, because the idea of sitting up is important to keeping your physiology in the midst of meditation. I know Fia has a thought on that. What do you want to say?
That actually held me back from meditating for many years because I needed physical therapy. So now that I've done physical therapy, I can meditate sitting up now, but I've found that I was able to just lay down. And also I kind of squirm too. Like if I feel a tightness or something, like, and then relax it. And
yeah. There's nothing in meditation that says you have to be absolutely still. There's a thing called walking meditation. So, there's all kinds of ways to do this. And I think that when we place rigid standards on ourselves, then we don't get to meditate much. That we give up pretty easy because it's not comfortable. It's got to be comfortable, it's got to be easy, and it's got to be fun. And if it's not those things, it's not going to work. It's not going to last.
yeah.
Thank you. Good point.
April has her hand up too, and Tim, and them.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, who wants to go? April, you want to say something?
Sure. I've been meditating regularly, daily, for 5.5 years.
It shows, my friend.
Thank you. I had an existential crisis and had played with meditation, meditated off and on for about 5 years before that. Knowing that meditation was part of my practice and part of my path, when I had my existential crisis, it just became clear that that was mine to do. I also wanted to give a shout out to you, John, about the amazing gratitude meditation you did yesterday for Sunday's class. I mean, it was just fantastic. Thank you.
That's where I combined meditation and gratitude. Thank you, April.
It really worked.
I'm glad. Let's go to Tim, and then we'll go to Kate.
Actually, I was just trying to respond earlier to who meditates, raise your hand.
Oh, okay. All right.
I finally found it, and then there's now something that says lower your hand. But I'm relatively new to meditation, at least what's the term I want to use? A definitive one where I sit down and really think about, all right, I want to do meditation. And I found a very helpful tool online. It's called Oak, O-A-K. It's a free app, and there's a lot of different tools on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also helps you keep account of how many days you've been doing meditation. So, you know, it's really a helpful tool. It's helped me a lot, and it may help other people as well. So
That's great. Thank you, Tim. Now let's hear from your wife.
Well, what I would like to say is that, in answer to Deidre, that when I first started doing meditation, I struggled with staying focused, and if I got real relaxed, I went to sleep. What I discovered through doing it more and more is that when you go into it with a focus on, like I started by focusing on a candle. I've also focused on a figure in front of me. I have a goddess figure that I use, but having a focus or having a certain idea that I wanted inspiration for. I know that goes into more into visioning, but just having a point of focus. And it could be simple, like saying Om, and just holding that one thought. And when other thoughts come in, you just sort of let them breeze on through. And then after a while, it becomes less challenging, less difficult. I meditate daily for at least half an hour a day in the morning. And the longest I've ever meditated was 6 hours. And that was because I promised to stay in high watch for Rick Krebs, who was going into surgery. And I told his wife, Katya, that I would stay in high watch until she called me and let me know he was out of surgery and all was well. Well, I went into meditation and I sat there and sat there and sat there, and I just kept staying in that space. And then finally I thought, wow, what is happening? I need to ask. And so I called her and she goes, oh, I forgot. He's been out of surgery for 4 hours. So, but what that taught me is that when your mind is focused, when your mind is either focused on a particular thing like you do in high watch, or when it's focused on just staying present, that time becomes irrelevant. Yeah. You don't even know how long you sit there. And I'm presently involved in doing a thesis, a master's thesis on meditation and the effect meditation can have on treatment. And one of the books that I read as a part of that is called Search Inside Yourself. And it talks about the folks in that company, computer company, Google, that they started meditation and it improved the quality of the work, the quality with which people interacted with each other, and the productivity of the company. It was amazing the number of things that being mindful and meditating improved in that one company.
That's lovely. Thank you, Kate. Let's hear from Andra. You're still muted. You're going to have to hold down your,
All right.
There you go.
Okay. When you were going through your list of things that meditation improves, you said you were surprised by the heart rhythm part.
Did I?
In 1996, I was diagnosed with a heart condition where my heart didn't pump fast enough, and it didn't pump the blood out fast enough. So I got a blood clot and some other things. Well, when it didn't pump out fast enough, it caused an arrhythmia. And so I was in the hospital for about a week. And when I was leaving, the doctor or the nurse gave me a list of things that I could do and that I couldn't do, mostly things that I couldn't do. But one of the things that I could do was meditation, because they said it would, the relaxing of your mind and your body would help your heart rhythm.
That's
and
great.
That was in '96.
Wow, that's
so
great.
That research has been around for a while.
Yep.
So,
Excellent.
okay.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Well, first, just a technical thing. When they started doing chats, it got rid of the column over there that had raising your hand. So I haven't been able to do any of that since they started chatting.
Okay.
On the meditation thing, I started meditating when I was in college, and it was, I used my weightlifting as my meditation. And I have found, especially starting out, it's a lot easier to start doing with the physical meditation until you kind of get the feel of it before you just do the sit down and think one. If you are a physical person, you know, that tends to be very physically active, it's much easier to start out with it as doing a physical thing, whether it's walking or weightlifting or whatever, swimming, it can be anything. But I just found, for me, starting out when I did in college, there's no way I would have been able to sit still and do it. But I was able
So
to
how did that impact your mind chatter when you would do it in the middle of an act like weightlifting?
you don't have any mind chatter. You just are, the only thing you're focusing on is the movement, and you forget about everything else, and that's all you focus on. And it's breathing, you know. And for mine, it was basically, I was doing deadlift, and so it was, you know, just basically standing straight up and then squatting, that sort of thing. But and I've used walking meditation too. But I've just found lots of times when you're having a hard time doing just the sitting still, get up and do a moving meditation.
Thank you. Thank you. Who else has a thought?
I do.
Hi, Kate.
Hi. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I loved hearing this tonight because I grew up, my dad started following Maharishi and doing transcendental meditation when I was young.
Right.
So I was inducted into that or taught that. And in fact, they start kids on walking meditations. And of course I rebelled a little, because you do when you're young and your parents make you meditate every night. But I do remember us meditating before dinner and all of us falling asleep at times. But I really, it's so true what you were saying, because my dad suffered a lot from depression and anxiety and still manages it. But meditation really, and he'll say this, saved him. He did it twice a day and still does. And it would make my mom a little resentful because she had to keep us quiet while he was doing it during dinner time, around or before dinner time. But it really did save him. But it was at a time when meditation was something that didn't feel culturally relevant here, and even in Maharishi's, in that community, it's very Eastern based. And so I've really enjoyed growing up. It's gratifying to me to learn meditation from more of a culturally relevant standpoint, if that makes any sense. I don't have to know Sanskrit.
Right. You don't have to know Sanskrit. Good for you.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I would say about it, that it's nice to have it become a more common thing within our culture.
Sure. I can remember when I heard people who were fundamentalist Christians say that meditating would open your mind to the devil. I mean, that was the game that they were playing, that somehow this was evil. And the truth is that there are so many benefits to it, and there's nothing evil about it. It's a wonderful process of kind of taking charge of your life, just slowing things down so that mind chatter doesn't take over and control everything. So thank you, Kate. That was a great story you shared. Anybody else want to share? All right, then I think it's time to meditate. You didn't think we were going to do this whole thing and not do a little meditation. So everybody is muted, and we're going to make this really easy. I invite you to turn the lights near you down if you can. If that doesn't work, that's fine. Light's not a bad thing, but it might make it a little easier if you have less light. I'm going to turn that one off. And allow yourself just to relax. And this is, I'm not doing a guided meditation. We're going to do this in silence for just a few minutes, just to give us a sense of what this is. And I'm going to start a little timer here. And we're just going to begin and allow ourselves to settle in. If you can put your feet flat on the floor, great. If you can't, that's fine. Just allow yourself to relax into your body and rest your mind. back. Just a little taste. So as you're coming back into your bodies, that was 10 minutes, by the way. I trust that had some value. In fact, I'm wanting to know that that this entire 2 hours with us together has had value. It certainly has for me. It's always delightful to be with people I love, and that's who you are. So thank you so much for joining me for this time. Thank you for continuing to support the center, even though we are not passing baskets tonight. But the center is doing fine. We're just waiting for the go-ahead to welcome you all back here. It's nice and clean and pretty, and we'll be back open as soon as the powers that be say we can. In the meantime, we'll continue doing Sunday and this class and Wednesday evening with April. And I encourage you to do as much of that as you can. And however you support the center, thank you. And I love you all very much.